Hello and welcome to Titans of Gaia. This is part 2 of 3 of the making of Taurian Versus Libran. In this episode you'll see me make the armour and weapons, and you'll also see the Taurian completed. By the way, you may be wondering why I spent so much time sculpting and detailing the body and then cover it all up in this video. It's because I wanted to show it for demonstration purposes in the first part. So in the first part of this series I showed two finalised designs for the body type. The first was lean and the second one was bigger and bulkier. So at this sculpting stage that's exactly what I've done. I made it lean at first and then I add more bulk and armour because it also makes it look more like a bull should do. A large body mass mixed in with human features. I'm using epoxy sculpt here. I'm just making a few pattern details there on the helmet, and I've added a torso plate of armour. Now I'm making baggy trousers for him. The samurai used to wear these for comfort, so I thought it was a good idea to add that detail. Now I'm making armour for his lower legs. It also looks very basic and plain at first. It's because I work in layers. What you see me doing here is I'm making these leg guards. I smooth it out the best I can with a flat-headed dental tool. Then I brush on isopropyl alcohol to smooth out the surface. I then use this carving tool to shape it into a sharp, specific V shape. I then added more layers here which protect the midsection. These are in preparation for later. Now I'm using a Sharpie to map out the areas that I'll be working on soon. Now I'm adding clay to make gauntlets. Notice that I'm working on different areas randomly. It's because I try not to spend too much time on one specific area, and I'll try to even it all out. It's a process of building it up gradually. Having said that though, I do like to spend a lot of time on the face and head. That may sound contradictory. Really though, it's because it's my favourite feature to make. This is a deliberate placement of a square tube. This is in place to hold the forearm, shield and eventually the Libran. So now I'm making the clothes that go under the armour. I'm also making the rest of the armour and smoothing it out. I'd like to point out that this isn't a faithful representation of samurai armour. While it's very heavily influenced from samurai armour, it's still very fantasy based armour, custom made for my Taurian character. I'm now making the shoulder armour. Here's a fact, samurai never used shields. Well, I think they did in their very early days, but generally they had these huge plates that hung from their shoulder that were like shields. Pretty clever, eh? So here I'm trying to be as accurate as possible without any measuring tools. I'm not trying to sound clever here, I'm just trying to do it all by eye. But really, I still should have used some kind of measuring tool at the time for accuracy. Here I'm adding more volume by giving him fur. Here I'm detailing the hooves, giving it texture. Now I'm onto creating the sash. You will notice that the scale armour that I created earlier using that customised carving tool is now gone. Why? I wasn't happy with it at all, so I decided to take it off with a Dremel rotary tool and start it again. I wanted it to be more of a consistent style going on, as the shield will have the same pattern on there. Oh, and don't forget to like, subscribe and comment below. Now I'm back to sculpting the sash, creating the knot this time. Man, was that satisfying to do. This is the mixed media part. So I'm using speaker cables and Yoo-hoo glue here. It's super sticky, gloopy and slimy glue, and it's great stuff. It takes about a day to dry though. I use these cables because I get a perfectly consistent shape and size, and it works for me. This This is parcel string, which comes as a ball of string, and I use PVA glue to stick them down. I also coat it with the same glue as well. Now I'm working on the lower legs, sculpting bows and fabric. I'm back on the lower front panels now, continuing with the same process as before. As you can see, it's now a grey colour. That's because I spray painted it with a grey primer, which makes it look all nice, clean and uniform. Now I'm adding more details, such as the fabric on the sash. And now the fur. This is a crest that will be placed on the top of the helmet. I drew an outline digitally, then printed it and used it as a template so I could get it perfectly symmetrical. I then used the same method for the double-ended axe. This is a Dremel rotary tool. I would be lost without this. I used a few bits and bobs that I collect. This is a wooden dowel. Came together quite nicely here. These are scrap pieces of thin MDF wood that I found. So I drew out the template, which are two swords. I then used PVA glue to glue it together. Then after it dried, I cut them down with the Dremel. After getting the basic shapes made, I then covered it in epoxy sculpt and created the details. Then I went back to the axe just to make it look battle worn. I shouldn't have used a scalpel blade though. I have no idea what I was thinking, it could have snapped so easily. Now I'm back to the sword again, adding more details. I'm now making a sash that holds the sword in place. I'm making fur on the shoulder armour. I made a kind of French plait with a string, wrapped it around the wire and sword, then I covered it in PVA glue, which makes it so solid when it's dried. I used the same French plait technique on the body waist. Here is where I used the kind of chainmail that was once part of a woman's top. I'm using Yoo-hoo glue to stick it on. Here is where I use the kind of chainmail. I'm using Yoo-hoo glue to stick it on. The great thing about this glue is that it sticks to metal very well. Continuing what I was saying about the samurai not using traditional hand shields, I wanted to give my character a massive shield. So here we have a decorated shield made from household objects. I lay on epoxy sculpt and add a swirl pattern that will be seen throughout the sculpture in different places. I'm now making the cape. I think the cape has a lot of character and I'll try to make it look like it was flowing in the wind. So this is where I get to go all out on creating drapery. Detailing the hands and fingernails here. I'm detailing the gauntlets and using the same swirl pattern. I then do the same for the axe. And then the shoulder guards. These are little important details that show how armour is held together, and I used washers here as well. I'm adding layers of thick fur on the back of the Taurian's head. Back to the shield. I'm filling it with epoxy sculpt to flatten it out. Apply Yoo-hoo glue, then I stuck down very worn faux leather. I then put a layer of PVA glue on top to make it strong and to stop it from fraying anymore. After it dried, I cut away the excess material. Then I glued the forearm on there and made some straps with epoxy sculpt. I'm back onto the legs again where I'm finishing off the detail on the bows. I'm creating that same swirl pattern on the horns. Then onto the sword sheaths. Then onto the kneecap armour. This is the tail and I'm texturing the fur. I'm adding final touches to the hooves. Here I pasted on PVA glue and then wrapped string to make it look as if this was helping to hold the axe in place on the handle. I then wrapped it round the handle to give it some extra grip for the Taurian to hold. Making the base consisted of gluing together scrap wood and tin foil where I used a glue gun. I then covered it in milliput, which is another epoxy putty product, and then I sculpted and textured it to make it look like rock. And here's the completed sculpture of the Taurian. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you soon.